Howdy, folks. Happy Friday. Thank God it's Friday. It's the day after July 4th, so I think half the United States took a day off. We didn't. So we're here, and we're going to talk about we're not going to talk about Kawhi Leonard, because if you're listening to Toronto radio, it's all Kawhi all the time, which is why I think the story that we're going to talk about first popped up yesterday, because they want the attention, because everybody's talking about Kawhi right now. But okay, but go ahead, Russ, with some pre-show.
So my pre-show is.
I was just going to say, how does Kawhi affect the Leafs?
We'll talk about that, Peter. For now, though, we'll talk about Home Run Derby, because now you could even bet that, right? Which I think is foolish. But just to go through with it, I'll let everybody know there's Josh Bell, Christian Yelich, Pete Alonso, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Ronald Acuna Jr., Jock Peterson, Carlos Santana, Alex Bregman. I just tweeted, and I feel pretty safe in saying this, we'll see what Anthony says, that everybody in Philadelphia will root for Pete Alonso over Carlos Santana.
I don't know.
He's a hated Met.
You're asking Phillies fans to root for a Met
over Carlos Santana, the guy.
I don't know if the hatred of Carlos. He needed more than a year to generate that level of heat.
Okay,
they got rid of him fairly quickly, so I think the heat. Now I'll say it's a coin flip, but I don't think it's a slam dunk the way you do.
And let me just say this on the list that you wrote, that you mentioned. How in good God is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on this list? He has 8 home runs.
I know some people.
I think he's one of the best prospects in the game. I saw him, in AAA last year. He's got a lot of talent, a lot of potential. He shouldn't be in this.
Canadian representation. They want
it's not Canadian. That's bullcrap. It's not.
They wanted people to tune in.
But you know what it is? A lot of the home run hitters have turned him down. Is Cody Bellinger in this?
No.
He didn't want to do it.
Yeah, is Encarnacion in it? Is Aaron Judge in this? And Aaron Judge was hurt, so he only has 8 home runs too. But none of the big nobody wants to do this because it affects their
Bruce, right, Russ?
Yeah, don't say none of the big ones. Don't say none of the big ones, because Alonso certainly has enough homers. Bell does too.
But like I said, none of any of the big ones.
Their first experience does. They're going to do it this year and then beg off it afterwards.
I think it will come down to Alonso and Jock Peterson. That's my feeling.
Okay.
I think they should just get a pitching machine, throw 102-mile-per-hour heaters, and dare these guys to step up and do it. Let's not turn it into a lob ball. I'd rather watch men's slow pitch,
Peter,
than watch this garbage.
That reminds me of the time. I wasn't in my day. I wasn't a bad softball player. I wasn't really good. But I was somebody who would hit to the opposite field and slow pitch softball. So I pissed off my opposition, because they always put the weakest hitter in right field. But one time I go into go to the batting cages, and they had the hard ball machine that purportedly would throw 95 to 97 miles an hour. And I said, you know what? I want to go in there. I want to take a swing. But of course, being somebody who didn't really play hardball much, I was afraid that I'd get hit. And I watched 2 or 3 guys in there, and it's throwing it right down the middle, no problem. I go in there, first pitch, 95 miles an hour, off my thigh. I had the biggest black and blue mark for what's.
I didn't get hit in live pitching with guys throwing 80s and 90s in a tryout for semi-pro baseball, and you got hit in a pitching machine.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Now, I have to say, though, July 4th, sorry, Peter, you weren't included in this. But
actually, Peter was on the losing side, technically.
No, that's the War of 1812.
No.
We won the War of 1812.
You know your Canadian history better.
Well, no, I mean they were British. They were a British colony, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, but when the Americans invaded, they got their ass kicked trying to invade.
Totally handed to you. Couldn't even if you could Washington across the Potomac, you couldn't cross the St. Lawrence.
And anyway, what I was saying is that you weren't included in the festivities yesterday.
That was my fault.
We won't go into the military thing in Washington, but I have to say, costs seem to be limiting, at least in terms of like public events. There was only like one or two like really big fireworks displays in the Buffalo area. I know there was one in New York City and things of that nature, but it didn't seem to affect like private little parties. In my area of the suburbs of Buffalo, there was somebody who must have dropped about $5,000 on a fireworks display because they were firing rockets at each other like it was the war in Iraq. It was pretty impressive. So anyway,
yeah, I don't get it. I mean, we used to shoot off on Long Island, but and here we have a lot of college kids. Some shoot, some don't. But the idea is, I think people now try and get too risky because they want to do videos, and you really can't trust fireworks. You really can't.
Pucks, not fireworks. That should be the motto. Shoot pucks, not fireworks.
If you want to see, look up the video. I think it was last year, maybe 2 years ago, the video of the fireworks display in San Diego, California, where the company that did the fireworks had a miscalculation and everything went off in one go.
Yeah, I saw that. But St. Lucie topped that yesterday, Mike. They had a fire outside the stadium when the Mets had their fireworks display in Class A. They topped that. Or rookie ball, maybe rookie ball.
Okay, well, I'll have to look for the video on that one. But the
there.
San Diego one looked like a nuclear explosion. So, okay, let's get started here. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Friday, July 5th, the day after 2019.
I'm Anthony Majoni from Sunrise Philly Magazine.
I'm Peter Tessie in balmy Winnipeg.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Lagello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Gee, what are we going to talk about today? Offer sheets. Offer sheets. Lots of offer sheet.
Lots.
Rumors.
Rumors.
And then that's where I want to go here because let me express my opinion first, and then you guys can react. I think this is a load of crap. I really do. I said from the very beginning about the Kawhi Leonard situation. If you listen to TSN Radio and Sportsnet Fan 590 in Toronto, which I do off and on, all they're talking about is Kawhi Leonard and the contract of whether he's going to sign with the Raptors or re-sign with or sign with the Clippers or Lakers. Nothing other than until this rumor last night from David Pagnotta, the fourth period, that there is a team that is seriously considering a offer sheet to Marner. Did Marner get on the radar? Everybody essentially has been saying, okay, well, the offer sheet window is over with because a lot of teams have spent a ton of money, and there are very few teams that would have the cap room and the draft pick flexibility to do what was rumored to be possibly done before July 1st, which is make an offer that the Leafs can't match and, offer up, a 10.5, 11, $11.5 million, whatever length of contract to Marner. I don't buy it. I continue to believe that Marner does not want to play any place other than Toronto, and Toronto is not lowballing him, but they're paying him they're supposedly offering him commensurate to what wingers would get, and Marner apparently is stuck on the Austin Matthews contract. So, I mean, I think this is going to be a long and drawn-out procedure. I don't think there's going to be an offer sheet. I'll be surprised if there is one. I don't rule it out, but Anthony, you go first. What do you think?
Depends, like, in many ways on which team might be offering, and that's one of the big questions. Everybody's assuming if it's going to be anybody, it'll be the Islanders, and because of Lou, I don't know. I think this could very well be a case of a team where nobody expects it. Maybe a team out west, maybe Colorado or somebody like that, who decides Anaheim, a team that's out west. I think you're hearing this now because I think they may be getting a little bit closer, but there's significant hangups, and that if this is getting leaked, that this is sort of maybe another way that the agent's trying to kind of goose things along to try to get things closer to what they're looking for versus what the Leafs are necessarily looking for. I'm not after once one offer sheet in the ether, which we now have, and was obviously matched by Carolina. Right. I think anything is possible. I'm not going to poop. I can't poop it at this point.
But Peter, was that really an offer sheet? Because it was almost like Carolina, or almost like Montreal did Carolina a favor with that one. I know that there was front loaded. I know that Dundon may not have been liquid in terms of being able to pay out $21 million in this 12 months, but $8.4 million for Sebastian Aho is pretty reasonable. That's why, in a way, if the offer sheet is reasonable, and I might actually be good for the Leafs in terms of Marner. It's only the scenario that Eck floated. Somebody offering a 1-year, $13 million offer. And I don't even know what the compensation – I don't think the compensation on that would be 4 first-round picks.
No, I don't think so.
I think it's like two 1s, a 2, and a 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think, Peter?
I think anyone looking at the Aho offer sheet and trying to make sense of it is kind of missing the bigger point with that and how it's going to affect other ones. Did it work? No. Did the statements from the Carolina Hurricanes sort of make light of it? Of course it did. But if you're Tom Dundon, if you're Don Waddell, you're peeved. You're peeved someone came into your house and figured out your contract terms. Make no bones about it. You never want to be locked into signing bonuses that you were never planning to give.
Yep.
It's not about whether they offered it. It's the terms that you went into the deal with, and you had to match someone else's terms. You never want the deal that someone else dictated for you.
Well, you know
Period,
that.
end.
You know
What's that?
It had to have come from the agent. There's no other place it would come from.
Yeah. And the fact is Sebastian Aho signed an offer sheet with another team, which says he was willing to leave the Hurricanes. It's not like the offer sheet was there and he didn't sign it and accept it. He accepted it. He was willing to leave, which is what you should be really worried about. And the fact that it was only 5 years is not for the Hurricanes or the Habs. It was for Aho. So he's out of here in short term if he wants to be, and I'll lay money that he's traded at some point before that ever happens.
No question.
Yeah. No.
And so again, you could have kept him on terms that were agreed to that you worked with,
right?
But you didn't. So you can Tom Dundon and Don Waddell can spin this any way they want. So now apply this forward with the next big one, Marner. If Mitch Marner signs an offer sheet with another team, something else has done that, not just the dollars.
Yeah.
There's something else going on. And that's what everyone needs to remember. Mitch Marner is going to make more money than anyone can ever dream of in his career. So the money is not an issue. He's going to make more money next year than any of us can ever dream of.
Well, that's a good point. I wanted to ask this to Russ. I think that if there's an offer sheet, the key is not going to be the AAV, because with the machinations that the Leafs, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes, the machinations that the Leafs have done over the last week, they can go over 10% of the cap. They can match an offer sheet. Where I think Marner and his camp are aiming, Russ, is 4 years to walk him right to UFA, or 5 years to walk him to the same UFA as Matthews and Nylander. And that is where I think his camp is not operating in good faith, and is, in a way, if they do that, is screwing the Leafs. Because the Leafs, I think, I have not heard one report of them not acting in good faith and not offering him what is commensurate to his talents. But they may be unreasonable in terms of what they're looking for.
Okay, so a few things. First one is going back to the very beginning of the show. I am not against fireworks. I like professional fireworks. I've seen it a million times. I don't like when idiots do it. Moving on. The Aho thing, Greg Wyshynski got something very interesting out of Dundon. Dundon basically said that it was proven that this was a waste of time, but as Peter proved, it is not a waste of time, because he's pissed off about it and he had to come up with the funding. The other thing is Jerry Johansson, when he said that his client 100% wants to play in Montreal, Dundon's response was, I couldn't care less about his agent. And he told that to Sarah Simeon. And it's like, once you say that, you've lost the battle. He has lost the battle long term. He could say what he wants and thump his chest, but he has lost the battle. Okay.
Yeah, it's a 5-year contract, and Peter is absolutely right.
2 years. That's, I guarantee it.
Right, you have no hope of signing him in 5 years after what you said about him, unless Dundon sells the team to some other sucker.
Right.
So
none of these things were smart for Dundon. Okay, moving on to the Marner camp. Clearly, there's massive leaks, and we probably know where they're coming from. So, again, they're not coming from a good place. Where Carolina was struggling with Aho, we heard they were struggling with Aho because they didn't want to pay him market value. Clearly, the Leafs want to pay Marner market value, but there is all this haggling over probably bonuses and years and term and all these other things, right? AAV and all that. So I get it, right? Those things do get a little more complicated. He'll be the second highest paid player, I think, on that team. So it does take a while. You can't do those contracts quickly. But again, I think to connect the Islanders to it is foolish because the Islanders – people are just assuming, well, they went after Panarin, so now they'll go after somebody else.
Right.
They didn't last year when they lost to Tavares. They didn't go after anybody else. Why are they going to do it this year? Now, I will tell you the one difference. It does seem like the arena deal is getting closer. The governor said yesterday, Cuomo said that. Now, again, this is also pretty loaded, though, because it said that it's coming from a source that, hey, they're close to naming the LIRR stop and talking about that whole deal, and they're going through the last round of reports, environmental impact reports, and then they can be put up for approval. All that said, even if the thing ground gets broken in August, I don't know if it's going to be on time for 2021-22. That's iffy. I'm going to tell you right now, that timetable is a little iffy. So with that in mind, just like I'm going to hold Ledecky to his word, and he's held to it until that's pretty much close to a fait accompli, and he's starting to see revenue from that. They're not going to go through the roof on revenue. They're just not.
They're a budget team until that point.
Yeah.
And let's make this point because I found it amusing. And I'm, hey, whoever's reporting the Islanders, I know that people are putting 2 and 2 together. And I think it was Mike Kelly who reported that the Islanders were the likely. Okay, you're the Marner camp. You had a problem with the Maple Leafs in terms of them not giving you bonuses. Like Austin Matthews got Schedule A, Schedule B bonuses on his entry-level contract. Marner did not. Marner was played on the fourth line his first year like William Nylander was until he basically got what Mike Babcock wanted him to do. And then, okay, so all these little picky-unish problems, that was under the guy who's currently the general manager of the Islanders. So you're going to be making the deal that gives you $12 or $13 million a year or whatever this offer sheet is from the guy who you perceived screwed you in Toronto. That's why I could believe if it's Montreal because they fell short on the offer sheet with Aho and maybe they're want to put a division rival in a pickle. But I can't believe it's Lou. I really can't. I don't see I would be dumbfounded if Lou Lamoriello is the one that signs that offers the offer sheet and the Marner camp agrees to sign it with Lou.
I mean, look, would they put the Leafs in a little bit of a cap hell? Sure. But the Leafs are going to match it.
Yeah.
So, again, if this is going to be the end game of all these teams to just now do it because you don't think you can get the player and put everybody in cap hell, then there'll be 15 or 20 offer sheets next year, but there won't be.
Right.
And you don't want that to happen.
Yeah, and get ready for an offer sheet on Matthew Barzal next year if that happens. We've seen that happen before. We've seen teams respond by putting them. Are they going to? Would they be able to? If say for example they offer Mitch Marner an offer sheet and the Leafs pass, and Marner goes to the Islanders, good luck next summer when somebody offer sheets Matthew Barzal because you won't have the room.
And what they'll do is they'll put the major signing bonus through a potential lockout year. That's what I would do if I was the cap guy. Right. I would have a lot of that money being paid on a potential lockout year. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. There are some reports coming out that there could be an offer sheet as soon as today. I'll be
Friday.
Take out the trash day.
Friday at 5.
Yep.
Okay. Well, this was humorous. I saw this reported last night. Apparently, Eugene Melnick, the owner of the Ottawa Senators, was at a Rolling Stones concert recently, and a member of Parliament, who was the representative of Melnick,
Member of the provincial parliament. She's a
Right.
Ontario MLA.
Yeah,
PP.
a conservative
is what they call
named Lisa McLeod walked up to Melnick while he was enjoying the stones, the geriatric stones, and said, "You are a bleeping piece of bleep, and you're a bleeping loser." I'm like, okay. I guess your re-election campaign has just started. The Ottawa scenario has been quiet for a while, but Russ, where there was progress in New York in terms of a building, there's been no progress in Ottawa. I haven't heard.
Yeah, no, there's progress in New York. There's no progress in Ottawa.
Right, and I continue to go down the road as okay. LeBreton Flats is dead. He's got a lawsuit against the guy who was the partner in that situation. I don't see a building getting built. I don't see any talk of a building getting built as long as Melnick is owner of that team. So where is this situation going? And I keep going back to Quebec City. And I don't know if I'm making a wrong assumption here, Peter, but I honestly think if you don't hear anything about any kind of significant progress before the beginning of next season, you're going to start hearing legitimate rumors about the Senators moving to Quebec City.
Oh, well, yeah, and particularly if there's a lockout. Can Melnick withstand a year of no revenue based on what he's got and the layoffs and the things we've heard over the years about payroll issues and stuff like that? You still have to keep your staff. You still have to keep all these people who you pay to operate the hockey thing, even if there's no hockey going on. You still have to scout. You still have to do all these things. That would probably be the final nail in the coffin if an extended lockout happened. That being said, I don't think one is going to happen. And right around that time, there should be a rather large sum coming in from Seattle, I would imagine, too, that could buoy his financial boat for the short term as well.
Right.
The Quebec thing is going to be a topic for a long time. The problem with the Quebec Arena and the Quebec model is they don't have a person who is going to come in with wealth.
Correct.
They have corporations. There is the problem.
Yeah. Houston has a person.
Houston has a person.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
You need a person. You need a person who may have all their wealth through huge corporations and stuff like that, but you need the entity who has that backing of assets.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I think
that
Houston
is where.
one.
Yeah, that is where the challenge comes. And, whatever it is, Videotron, the company, Quebec Corp Printing and stuff. Yes, huge company, everything. But taking on you've already taken on the arena, taking on upwards of $450 million, depending on what your sale price is, expansion. And the expansion transfer fee or whatever they're going to call it is going to be massive. Go down the road and eat some of the Montreal Canadiens lunch. It's going to be huge.
What would
so
stop?
You got to take that on, and you've got to pay it, and then you've got to make money, and that's going to be difficult.
What would stop Melnick from just moving the team, like him keeping ownership and moving the team to Quebec City?
They're going to charge him a transfer fee.
Okay, yeah, that's true. I mean, he wouldn't have it because
here's the other thing too. I mean, Houston just put in $70 million into their arena, and so I guess retrofitting hockey isn't going to be a big problem for them anymore.
No. And now the question is whether that is in preparation for the Arizona Coyotes, which we continue to say, even though there's new ownership and there's a billionaire in place there. I mean, the question of viability in Arizona will continue to be a question until they either build a new build. Even if they build a new building, it'll still be there. But whether the fail-safe is moving Ottawa to Houston, and then you'd have to have divisional realignment and things of that nature. But I mean, I just think that and we know it's a political football because that's the capital of the Canadian government. But it's more of a local issue. But getting that building built is the only thing I think that makes that team financially viable. So,
yeah.
All right, a couple signings that were interesting. And first one, Peter, I'll go to you first on Ben Sherratt signing 3 years with the Canadiens. I know you wrote an article about the Jets and what they were looking for in terms of a or a left-hand shot defenseman. And I know Sherratt, even he was there, but I don't think they were really in the mix to bring him back. And you were talking about Jake Gardner and 3 teams being Buffalo, Montreal, and Winnipeg. Well, I know Montreal's got a lot of cap space, but if they bring in Sherratt, I don't know if they would want to.
They only have 8.4 million now.
Right. So I don't think they're going to drop $6 million a year on Jake Gardner. So I think that takes them out of it. So I'm a little surprised Gardner hasn't signed. But what do you think of the signing of Sherratt?
I tweeted this earlier today, but I mean, if you're going to sign Ben Sherratt, you need his little sidekick buddy, Dmitry Kulikov, riding shotgun with him because, I thought they came as a pair. So you better trade for them. Look, Ben, congrats to Ben Sherratt. He played the system well. He certainly got a massive pay raise, but one that probably isn't warranted for what he brings. And I will say this. Dustin Byfuglien has made a lot of guys a lot of money over the years. Mm-hmm. And Ben Sherratt is example D of that. Like he played with Byfuglien almost exclusively for a number of years. He came in when the Jets were down to almost no one on defense. Under starting the season, Paul Maurice had moved Byfuglien to forward. They kept him there, and then all of a sudden, the injuries piled up. Byfuglien had to go back to D. Ben Sherratt came up from the Manitoba Moose and caught lightning in a bottle with the team. They made the playoffs. He got a deal. He got an extension with Winnipeg, and played with Byfuglien. And I hope you have a buff to play him with because that's where you're going to get your value. And good for Sherratt. Like, I mean, honestly, good for Sherratt. This is what you want guys to do. You just don't want to be the GM who signs a contract that's overpaying. And I think it's overpayment for Ben Sherratt.
Maybe they pair him with Shea Weber, possibly. I mean, they're probably the closest comparable in the circumstance, right?
Well, Weber's not a riverboat gambler like Buff.
Right.
I think they put Mete. I think they put Mete with Weber because he's a smaller, speedier guy and he can lug the puck. But what you're saying, Peter, is that this is Matt Carle 2.0, the creation of Chris Pronger with Philadelphia, and then he got a big contract with who? Tampa Bay, Russ.
Yeah, but I think the difference with Matt Carle was he still was a really good puck mover and a skater. It wasn't like he couldn't do anything, and I think Sherratt's even a little less than Matt Carle. I do.
Okay. Another contract, and you made the point, Russ, that a lot of the cheaper guys are getting gobbled up right now because most of the teams have spent their money or spent most of their money that they want to, and now they're trying to fill in. Scott Harrington, who was a part of the Kessel deal, it was essentially like a 7th defenseman and I think he played a little bit with the Marlies a few years ago and then was moved on to Columbus for Kirby Reichel, which turned out to be a pretty bad deal because at least Scott Harrington has played in the NHL and Kirby Reichel's moved from AHL team to AHL team. Well, he signs a 3-year deal with the Columbus Blue Jackets for $4.9 million. So that's a little 1.63.
Yeah, 1.6, 1.7 every year.
Just and the reason this is good, and I'm sure that there is a lot of work to do. They got Ryan Murray signed, but they still have not gotten Werenski signed. And if you think the problems out there for some of these forwards like Rantanen and Marner, what about McAvoy? What about Werenski? What about Provorov? Yeah. Those deals are going to be difficult to get done too.
Yeah, they're going to drag on this summer. I mean, so if you're Columbus, you've got to make sure you've got everything else in place in case you do have a holdout. And so this is a good move by Yarmo to get this done. Harrington's an NHL defenseman. Yeah. Look, I know he had career highs and everything, but he's pretty good. He always was pretty good. He was pretty good before the NHL. And so I think this was smart. And I think we're going to see more of these guys get sucked up now that these other bigger ones are just hanging out there. Yeah. But again, I'll ask the question of the New York Islanders, if you're not big game hunting, why aren't you going after at least a bona fide scorer? They're going to go into next year and they're going to have essentially the same defense. They'll because you said they added Taves at the end of the year anyhow. Maybe they'll bring up, a rookie or two.
Kiefer Bellows?
Yeah, Bellows could come up, but, and Hosang can play more and Dalcolo can play more, but they haven't added an NHL bona fide guy to boost their scoring because they're going to need to do that. Everybody in their division is doing that. So
I mean, there are still free agents out there like Furland and Johansson.
Right. And that's what I'm wondering. It's like everybody thinks if they're truly big game hunting, why wouldn't they just go out and get one of those guys and say, because they could use it, like they need a winger.
Right. And don't get me wrong, I have a lot of respect for Barry Trotz, and he was able to get that team into the playoffs with some questions in certain areas. But think of it this way. You have one injury, you lose Barzal, you lose Anders Lee, and you make a free agent offer sheet and you give up 4 first-round picks, you'd be giving up a lottery pick.
Yeah.
That's the risk that you have. You're not an established team where you're going to make the playoffs every year and your pick is going to be in the team.
You're hoping Varlamov and Bryce are going to be a really good combination. You don't know that. And
Varlamov has been injury plagued his entire career. I don't think there's ever been a season where he's not been hurt at one time.
Yeah, I look at it and I'm surprised. I'm surprised the same way I was surprised last year with the Devils and Shiro not doing anything, and that's why I could never pick them for the playoffs. Now Shiro learned this year, and he gets PK Subban. Obviously, he gets Jack Hughes in the draft, and at least those two things are two big advances for that team. So, plus they're going to hope to get Ty Smith in there too, and if they do, and he's ready, that's a big boost up for the Devils. So then, really, everybody in the division has gotten better so far, except the Islanders and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Those are the two teams that right now haven't been keeping up with the Joneses.
Now, Anthony, Provorov, to me, it looks like it's going down the road of an extended negotiation, that this is something that may not get resolved until September. And then I get that feeling with a lot of these now. It's like, okay, you had that initial rush of signings, and now everything's settling in, and now it's going to be sort of a staring contest for most of the summer.
Yeah, I think that's exactly, especially in the case of Philly and Provorov. I really do, because again, I think in many ways the agent for Provorov almost looks at last year as sort of just a hiccup in his career pattern. The Flyers obviously can't look at it that way. He definitely improved towards the end of last season, there's no question, but he had a very rough third year. And that does factor into the negotiation. But again, they're all waiting for the market to shake itself out. And as you said, I don't think it's going to shake out necessarily until we get to August or September. I really agree. At this point now, if they don't have that particular deal done, they're going to be more than happy. Everybody's like, well, they got a log jam on defense. They got 8 defensemen. And I'm like, and my opinion is, again, they can hold that for most of that situation for most of the summer, and then make their determinations from there. Provorov at Philadelphia, I think we'll get Provorov under contract. I think it'll probably be in the 6 to 7 year range, most likely. I'm sure they would like to push for 8. What that number figure will be, that's going to be extremely interesting. Do I think he, despite last year's hiccup, is still a franchise level defenseman? Absolutely. Are there areas that he can improve, specifically on the power play and special teams? Absolutely. I think they've created a good enough situation, I think, with some of the defenseman acquisitions that they've acquired. As much criticism as there's been for the Matt Niskanen signing, I do think he's the type of defenseman that Provorov will work well with, as long as Niskanen can be the Niskanen of a couple of years ago. So my view on it is that, once the contract is figured out, I think he'll be able to, for the most part, live up to it. But it's going to take a while before we get there.
Now let's talk about this, because this to me is an interesting thing. If somebody offer sheeted Provorov, the Flyers would be in deep trouble. They would, because they don't have a lot of escape hatches, because they haven't even signed Travis Konechny yet.
No, yeah, that's the other thing that has to get done between Lawton, who is going to be at 5 p.m. today. I think he's on the arbitration eligible list, and you have Konechny as well. That hasn't been determined yet. That's probably those contracts they need to probably get done as soon as they can in order for them to be able to figure things out for Provorov.
Yeah, and Boston is and I'm looking up their cap figure right now, but Boston is in a little bit of a pickle, because they have both Carlo and McAvoy as restricted free agents. Now, according to Cap Friendly, they've got $10 million in cap space. I don't think that they can sign both of them to long-term extensions. I think one of them is going to get, I think McAvoy will get the long-term deal. I think Carlo is probably going to have to accept a bridge. I mean, that's and that's what I wanted to talk to you about, Peter, was, I mean, what complicates things with Winnipeg is not, you don't have one, you have two. You have Connor and you have Laine. And we've heard the chatter about Laine taking a bridge, and that maybe both sides would be amenable to that.
Well, hold up, Peter, for 1 sec. The only thing I want to say about Carlo is where Boston's put themselves in a bad spot here, they elevated him to a top pairing guy.
Right.
And so even on a bridge, they're going to get killed, because even though he's not a high-scoring guy, he could show that he's been playing heavy minutes and on their top pairing. And that's something where he's not going to be like a Harrington contract. He's going to be more than that. And that's going to be tough for Boston.
Right, which is the reason why there's been Torrey Krug trade talk. He's 1 year away from being a UFA. He's making over $5 million, and unless they can get one of these guys to take a bridge, then it's going to be tough to squeeze them all in there. Now, Peter, what's going on with what's the chatter coming out of Winnipeg? I mean, is there? I've heard Laine. I've heard the Laine camp would actually be amenable to a bridge deal. But what have you heard?
There's been nothing. There's been absolutely nothing, and the issue here is the Jets are rumored in on Gardner, and there's been enough smoke coming from a few places that says they've reached out. I don't see how they can do this if they're going long term on either Connor or Laine. I don't see it unless there's another trade coming. So the Laine camp, again, sources are very thin, has said, they might be open to it if that's to be believed, but there's been no leaks. There's been nothing. The only thing I've seen on this was before Pierre LeBrun went on holidays, and that was that he had heard that some teams are considering an offer sheet for Connor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Like, it is locked down, nothing. And I find that really odd right now, considering the amount of the RFAs out there and all this talk of offer sheets, and that no one thinks they could try and make a run at Kyle Connor, knowing that Laine's sitting there, and that the Jets also have to sign Pionk, and that they might be rumored in on someone else. He seems like the perfect target for someone to come in and do something.
Right.
I think the Jets would match it, but he seems like a good target.
Now,
but that's it. That's all there is on this. There's nothing.
You mentioned something, and I think that's also a factor in these rumors about the Marner offer sheet. All the insiders are away for the summer. They've started their vacations. There's, LeBrun, Chris Johnston, Elliot Friedman, McKenzie, Drager, all of them. They're off the radar, and deservedly so. They've had a long year, and they're golfing and relaxing. That's great. But they're off the radar, and there's no news coming from them because, they're off the radar. And Marner's camp wants to apply the pressure to the Leafs while things are still, the longer it goes, I think the leverage goes toward the Leafs rather than the Marner camp. Marner does not want to be in the same position that William Nylander was. William Nylander was viscerally disliked by the Leaf fan base because of the extended holdout. And the one thing that Marner wants to do ads, wants to sell himself in Toronto. He's a Toronto boy, all this stuff. That is not conducive to an contract impasse, and the Leafs won't be able to do the same thing they did with Nylander, because remember, if he holds out after the beginning of the season, that first year is prorated and front-loaded. They can't fit a $10 million cap hit like they did for Nylander this year. They wouldn't be able to. They would have to trade somebody off their roster to be able to fit that contract in.
Right, so let's humor this. Let's say Mitch Marner is a holdout. Who's filling in for him?
Jeremy Bracco.
Okay, and then that's an okay fill-in, but Mike Babcock, after like 2 or 3 weeks of Bracco filling in for Marner, will put tremendous pressure on Kyle Dubas to get him signed. That's why I don't think the Leafs really have much leverage here.
Well,
if they had a younger coach, then he would toe the company line. Mike Babcock's not going to toe the company line.
Well, Mike Babcock is on shaky ground, so whatever.
He doesn't care, though. You know that.
I know that, Ross, but I'm just telling you that doesn't mean that Kyle Dubas is going to succumb to his whim because he wants his toys. There's a salary cap. If Mitch Marner is asking for 11.5 and you can't fit him, I mean, I'll tell you right now, if they have to sign him for over $11 million, the guy who's getting traded is William Nylander. because
I'm saying I can imagine Babcock 2-3 weeks into the season, Marner's not there, him already saying, yeah, we're a little weak in certain areas, him already dropping hints. He'll start doing that.
Yeah. Well, I'll start doing that, and then by the end of the year, Sheldon Keefe will be the Leafs head coach. Okay, you wanted to bring up Jonathan Drouin, and then we'll take some questions in the chat to end the show.
Well, I just think Jonathan Drouin's been talked about a lot, and Peter had asked in the chat room if Montreal would have gotten Aho, who would have left, and I think it would have been Jonathan Drouin.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the salary and there's still something there. Obviously, we've talked about it. Like, he gets 50 points a year, and he's like one of the most talked about guys in trades. But other teams would take Jonathan Drouin.
Sure, other teams would take him, and like Colorado would take him because he was line mates with Nathan McKinnon.
Yeah, they would love it.
But and this is Mark Bergevin's fault. For what they did as selling him as a potential star, and that they were going to move him to center, based on the expectations, I'm not saying he is, but based on the expectations that they whipped up, he is a bust. Now, he's not a bust. He's a good player, but the typical Montreal thing, oh my God, we got Jonathan Drouin. We traded Sergachev for him. He's going to be our number one center. No, he's not. He was never a center. He's a winger. He's a good winger. But you try to make something out of nothing there, and now you're reaping the reward of that.
There are teams that would definitely take him, and I think Montreal hasn't really put him out there in this offseason, but certainly his name has been out there before. It might be out there again at the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
But Montreal is getting better, and I think at some point, if he doesn't play a better 200-foot game, Claude Julien will get him pushed out. That's what I think.
A little bit of breaking news here.
He can push him right to Winnipeg so he can play with the Oilers again.
A little bit of breaking news here. The Pittsburgh Penguins have extended head coach Mike Sullivan 4 years, new contract, through the 22-23 season. He's
so much for players don't like him. He's on shaky ground last year. We heard all of this. It was all
the players that didn't like him got traded to Arizona, so I think that resolves that problem.
That did. I think there's another thing to talk about, too, because Anthony and I were both a proponent that maybe the Flyers should be in on Nikita Gusev. And, like, this is one where you might even be able to get Vegas to make that a really palatable deal just so they can get rid of him because they don't really want to pay him.
The one concern I think here, again, from Philly's perspective is the talk that Gusev is looking for $4 million.
Right.
Yeah,
Philly in a more of a cap situation. Does Philly have the assets to acquire Nikita Gusev? Absolutely, definitely. Especially if the purported talk is for a goalie prospect. That's one area Philly's got plenty of.
Let's just say for argument's sake, they trade one of the prospects, Ustimenko, Sandstrom, one of those guys.
I think more likely Sandstrom probably.
Yeah. So let's say they trade one of them for him, right?
Yeah.
They could just say to another team, hey, we're going to trade you Scott Laughton. We're not even going to sign him now. And that would make up some of the deficit right there. Like, if you get a guy like Gusev, he really opens up the ice.
The thing is, you're also in you're in RFA territory for a team like Vegas who's really, again.
No, they won't take him. I mean, another team. You make another deal to trade Laughton somewhere else.
If you're looking to do that and Gusev being a natural center in this circumstance, but you're a $4 million a year, fourth line center. I think in this case, if Philadelphia's acquiring him, they're going to
fourth line center. I mean,
I'll tell you where Gusev makes a lot of sense for a team that has a lack of scoring is the Islanders, and they got the cap space, and they have a goaltending.
They should be on them, but are they? Probably not.
Right. I mean, we don't know, but I mean, they have a goaltending prospect in Sorokin, and I'm probably sure that they want him to be their future number one. But they did sign Varlamov for 4 years, so they can go out and get another prospect goaltender. But
yeah, the other thing I was going to say about Gusev, I honestly think he'd be playing the wing anyhow.
I agree with you. Based on his size, I think it's far more likely you would probably see him swing. He would be basically for Philadelphia looking for that swing winger who could go anywhere in your top 9 and play him on the right side.
They don't have that.
They don't. But the thing is, again, you're looking at a pair of potential $4 million a year wingers there in that circumstance between him and potentially Konechny. So the question is how they handle that, plus handling the Provorov contract. It gets a bit hairy here for Philadelphia, I think.
Yeah.
Am I a proponent of them going after Gusev? The answer is yes. The key is, though, trying to figure the ramifications out.
Yeah, maybe it takes a little less, too. Maybe it takes 3.75, 3.5, something like that. Where
maybe.
I'm just saying. I that's what I would do. Let me look for questions here.
Yeah, while you're looking for questions, just a minor note here. This is the road that some players are going to go down. Marcus Kruger, who's been all over the place the last couple of years, Chicago, Carolina, back to Chicago. He took a contract in Switzerland. So with the squeeze happening in the NHL here, with a lot of these veteran guys probably only being offered veteran minimum deals like $700,000 a year, you're going to see a lot of European players maybe going back to Europe because the money is now comparable. They're not going to get $1.5 million or $2 million on a 1-year deal. They're going to, the cap is limiting the amount that some of these players will get on contracts. Sometimes they won't even get one-way deals. So you're going to see a lot of these guys maybe going back to Europe and probably bailing quickly because those spots open up. And the KHL, I believe the KHL starts in August, doesn't it, Anthony?
Yeah,
it's an earlier start for the season.
I think it might be, before we answer a question, there is more chatter, and I didn't bring his name up. We should mention Anthony and I about Wayne Simmons as a Devil because that was a good pickup for them. That's something where he could prove himself, but he also can really – him and Subban are going to bond instantly on that, and I think that will help that locker room and help drive them into having a much better season too.
Yeah, and if they put him on a line with Jack Hughes – and then
protect them.
You're paying $5 million a year for Wayne Simmons. I don't think you're looking for him to be 1 year, even on a 1-year deal. You're not looking for him to be.
Well, not an enforcer, but I think you have to make sure. I mean, I'm not saying like protect him, like okay, he's
but that's what he's done in the past. I mean, he's not an enforcer by the classic sense of the word. He's the guy who goes out there where everybody knows that
Right.
If you're going to take liberties with a team star player, Simmons will be in your grill faster than you can snap your fingers.
Right. So, I think New Jersey is going to be intriguing this year. The only thing I'm questioning is is Mackenzie Blackwood ready to be a number 1 in the NHL? He did show some potential last year in relief of after they traded Kincaid.
They're going to find out.
They're going to find out. So I don't know whether Corey Schneider can step up and be what he used to be a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I don't think anybody thinks that. All right, let's see. All right, so Zook asks Jones, Savard, Murray, Rivera, all these other guys for Columbus. Still waiting on Werenski. Do you think they move a D for a forward? No, because they have Emil Benstrom coming, and I think he could score 20 to 25 goals instantly in the NHL. I think he'll be an instant Calder candidate. He's coming over this year. That's your infusion of extra offense. I think they're going to wait Werenski out and get him at the right deal. This is where Yarmo is not going to blink. He really isn't. He's not going to give in.
And they have $15 million in cap space, so they could do both. They could sign Werenski long term, and if there's a team out there that is looking to dispatch a player making significant salary, they have the room to do that. So that might be the way that they go.
John LaCrue asks, what about Wahlstrom? Here's the thing about Wahlstrom for the Islanders. Great shot, great skater, plays no defense. And he killed him in college last year. And so that's something where he needs to really round out that part of his game before you ever see him. He won't be able to play like that for Barry Trotz. Even though he has all those other things that look great and would be really good, he is not going to get on the ice until he can play defense. So he needs at least another year or two to show that he can.
Sorry about that.
He needs another year or two to show that he can. So I think that's the deal with Wahlstrom. That's why I'm not mentioning him.
Okay.
That's why. All right. All right. Derek brings up an interesting point, and I think we'll mention it again. He said, not to mention the NHL has an agreement in place for this season that'll bring in $250 million in gambling revenue. That's $4 million per team. The players can share. I don't know. Did they say it's $4 million a team? Like sometimes when the NHL brings in, sometimes it's just for them. Sometimes when teams bring in, like you saw the Devils, whatever, they were on their own too. I haven't heard that the gambling is a true split. Have you, you guys?
I haven't heard that it's considered accumulated revenue. I'm assuming that'll be something that's negotiated in the new CBA. The only thing I've heard in terms of like the cap for next year is that everybody's expecting it to be pretty flat and not increase before the new CBA, and then 2 years from now, it's going to really increase with the new U.S. TV deal and the Seattle expansion money and everything else coming in. So
I don't know how it's going to get divvied up. I don't.
Yeah.
I guess none of us know, really.
Mhm.
So that's an interesting thing to sort of keep in mind. And we don't know how that contract is. Just because it's a $250 million contract, it could be over a certain amount of years. It might not be all this year.
Right.
Probably isn't. All right.
Yeah, and you got to remember this also. The NHL deal with Sportsnet was a 10-year deal negotiated in 2012, I believe. So that's
Right.
that's up after the year after. So the summer of 2022, that deal is over with. So, and from what I understand, I mean, we know that Sportsnet is bleeding money because of that deal. I don't think the NHL is getting that kind of, what was it, $5.2 billion or whatever the heck it was. I don't think they're getting that out of TSN or Sportsnet again. So they may get more money from the US TV deal, but you also have to balance that the possibility that they won't get as much from the Canadian TV deal.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's why they have to sort of supplement ESPN. Like, I know they've already started to do it with their app. I expect them to do a little more with them.
Yeah, there's going to
do that.
There's going to be a separate – it's going to be like the NBA. The NBA has a deal with ESPN, ABC, and they also have a deal with TBS.
Right.
I think that the NHL is probably going to have a deal with NBC. They'll probably have a side deal with ESPN and maybe Fox Sports too. So it's like, why not spread it out a little bit, get more games on TV? That these networks are craving content, and the NHL, I'm sure, is craving the money that they'll get.
Yeah. All right. Another question.
I don't think they'll get as much money spreading it out. You got to remember,
exclusivity.
The difference with basketball than hockey is that in basketball you can regionalize things. You may have a stronger TV presence in certain markets where ESPN and ABC do it. They do the national stuff, and then you get TBS doing other areas.
Right.
There's a lot more demand for it. Hockey, you need someone who's going to help you build demand for it, and that's why NBC is a better fit. I bet you NBC comes to the table. It'll be really interesting to see if there's any more money in the pot, though.
No, that's a good
I
point.
believe the revenue that they were getting from NBC was $200 million a year. I think that was the amount. It was
300, one of the two.
It was $2 billion for 10 years. I think that was the figure. Yeah, I mean the LA Dodgers got more from that from their regional coverage.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean that's what I'm saying. It's like it's gonna maybe you're right. Maybe if they spread out the broadcasting rights to other outlets, the exclusivity that NBC isn't getting is going to lower the amount. But I think the NHL, all the NHL is looking for is more dollars.
Or they'll just raise the price of Game Center. Anyhow, moving on.
Right. Good, they'll suck me in for another $29.95 a year.
Biz Angel, Russ, do you see Ty Smith being NHL ready this season? He's impressed in camp last season for the Devils, but still seem undersized and possibly a good AHL placement to see how he does there. No, he's 19, so he can't go to the AHL. I think they will give him a long look in the NHL. I think he'll get his 9 games. He is 19, but he's smart. He's fast. He can work the second power play because you got Severson on the top power play. I think they have to do it. They don't have a lot of options there, and if he does look the part and plays it and does even close to what Will Butcher did when he came into the league, he's going to make the team. So I think he has an excellent chance. I don't know about you guys.
Well, based on what was talked about last year, that he almost made the Devils as an 18-year-old, I would say that he's got a decent chance to make the team. But they added Subban, they have Vatanen, and they're not a deep defense, but I think that they'll
put together a credible top. I think they could put together a credible 2 pairs.
Right.
I think the third pair is the thing they got to try to fill out.
Yeah, and they already entry level slid Smith's contract, so they've got him for 3 years. So I don't think that. And you're right, Russ. His birthday is March 24th, so he can't go to the AHL. It's either back to junior, or he plays in the NHL. And if that's the case, I think they'll be careful and they'll keep him in junior for another year.
Yeah, goalie FP asks, do I think the Rangers buy anyone out or just bury Smith in Hartford? I think when the Trouba deal is close, the buyout of Smith will initiate the Trouba deal. I think.
Well, remember this though. they can't buy anybody out unless they offer someone salary arbitration. They have to offer arbitration, and then there's a second buyout window. If they don't, it's gone. It's over.
But I'm sure they will do that. I'm sure.
Well, yeah, they probably will. But I'm just saying that that's the situation. And I know a lot of people were hoping that the Leafs would offer Cody Ceci salary arbitration so they could walk away from the contract. Of course, that's the analytics nerds who were saying that.
Yeah, I think next year they might buy out either Stahl or Shattenkirk, depending on who does the least. And I think
you don't think that somebody would trade for Shattenkirk if they retain salary?
He has another year like this year. No, if he has a good year, yes.
Okay.
It really depends on how he does.
Minor Leaf-related news. Well, not Leaf. I'll say Leaf-related news. The Canucks signed Josh Lievo to a 1-year, $1.5 million contract.
Yeah, he did okay after he got. Yeah, he did okay after. And again, this is
fair deal.
This is a situation where there are players that Mike Babcock makes his mind up on, and you can't change it. And then in this case, in the case of Lievo, he goes someplace else and he has some limited success. I mean, he's not a superstar, but he's a good, competent NHL player. And he never really got much of an opportunity in Toronto because Babcock thought he wasn't a fourth line guy. And he's playing sort of a top 9 role in Vancouver and did pretty decently. So I'm glad for him. I'm happy for him.
Cam Young,
if you can find a guy who does what he does for $1.5 million, that's smart use of money. Like, that's what it is. And particularly if you're the Canucks and you're all over the map on other areas. So that's a good move for Benning.
And Peter, the thing I'm concerned about, because I think he has talent and I'd like to see him get an opportunity, but I have a feeling Nick Petan is going to be the Josh Lievo of 2019-2020, because I don't know whether Babcock is going to give him an opportunity to play regularly, even if Marner is holding out, because All
right, so here 3 quick ones. Biz Angel says, what's the over-under on total points for Jack Hughes? If he plays with Taylor Hall, I'm going to say 57 is the over.
57. Why 57?
So you buy that's what came into my head. You going over or under?
57.
It's a big calculation.
I'll tell you why. It's hard to get 60 points as a rookie in my mind.
Okay.
We're looking for an over-under number here. I'll say 52.
Okay. Peter?
Sorry, say that again.
For Jack Hughes, over-under points.
57 is the bar. Are you going over or under?
I'm going over.
Okay.
I say
Scott C says, what kind of player do I think Lawson Krause can grow into? Can he be a 15-goal, 30-point guy? I think he can. I think now with the new coach, you'll see Lawson Krause do a little better. I think.
And they signed him to a 3-year extension, so he's got an opportunity.
Yeah, I think Hugh will do something with him where I don't think the last coach did a lot with him.
Right.
Again, what did I really say about the last coach that was positive anyhow? So we move on.
Last
Bugner, just, whatever. Anyhow, last question, Cam Young. Should the NHL scrap the offer sheet? I mean, if no one's using them, what's the real purpose of having them? I think they should scrap it. I don't know why they're in there. I think at this point, the offer sheet is just so a team that's not great at managing their cap can just get scared into either losing a player or having to adjust their roster. I don't see if it's from a player standpoint, there's probably more benefit to the player if they actually choose that they want to do it.
Yeah, but good luck trying to get the NHLPA to collectively bargain the offer sheet. I mean,
hold on, Anthony's right though. Kress is with the Coyotes. My mind went to Bugner, but he has Tocchet with him. But I still think he could be a 15-point guy there.
But like the NHL would have to give up something. It's like, okay, you want to take offer sheets off the table, then a player can go UFA after 6 years, like something like that. It's going to have to be a quid pro quo. They're going to have to get something to get rid of that. And if it is becoming an option for teams, I mean, remember after Aho, there's been 1 in 6 years. This is not if somebody offer sheets Marner, if somebody offer sheets Branton, and then it may throw a scare in the NHL. I don't think it's at that point right now. Right now, again, it's a load of crap. I
think it's interesting. Like if we all took a survey, we would all say, well, why do these college players get to be free agents? Why don't they get rid of that? Every year we say that. Every year that keeps staying on the books too. So this is probably not going anywhere either.
That's a trade-off for a team holding their rights for 4 years. If they stay in college for 4 years,
you know what I mean? It's like you hear mostly that teams, or we don't hear teams. You hear mostly fans don't like it. I hear mixed things from teams, but then same thing with the It's like nothing really happens quickly in this league. That's really the bottom line when it comes to these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good show, guys. Thanks to Peter who had to go.
Off the post tonight.
Off the post, the season
finale tonight. Yep, we are wrapping up unless we get some kind of crazy special edition going or something. Right. But likely this is not the last one of the season.
Special Mitch Marner offer sheet special edition.
Yeah, 15 minutes of Marner.
So you can hear Mike Agello with his spewing vitriol at the that 10 o'clock tonight. Follow us on Twitter, Mike in Buffalo, Anthony Mangione, or Sportsology.
And Off the Post Radio too, don't forget. Yep.
And Off the Post Radio will be retweeting that. So good show, guys. We will be back on Monday with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. For Peter Tessier, for Anthony Mangione, for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just